Jaguar Wright has just spoken out about 50 Cent's viral Diddy documentary, and what she's revealing about 50 Cent on Netflix is insane according to Jaguar Wright. What 50 Cent showed is only a fraction of the truth tapes, testimonies, and real crimes involving not just Diddy, but the entire industry. Were deliberately left out because Netflix wasn't willing to go that far.
The problem with it was done too well. It left out too many things.
So can you speak on Curtis Jackson? 50 Cent said that this is the first one.
I'm
He said
sure.
that there's hundreds of hours of more footage.
I'm sure there was hundreds of hours of shit that was confiscated from all of Diddy's homes in that HSI raid that never made it to the trial. I wonder where it made it to.
Jaguar Wright just gave an interview where she revealed everything that was removed from the documentary. After watching it, Jaguar spoke to Gene Deal, the only person who actually spent time with Diddy and whose opinion mattered. He was Diddy's former bodyguard. He saw the violence, the intimidation, the cover-ups, and the people who were protected along the way. So, when Jaguar realized Gene was missing from a documentary that claimed to be The Reckoning, she knew something was off. She spoke to Gene. And that's when she discovered the truth.
Would you call the documentary educational, informational, entertaining? What would you say this documentary?
Gaslighting.
Gaslighting.
And it's sad because there's a lot of stuff in there that's true. But there's enough left out.
The timing of the documentary's release and its focus on old news seemed suspicious. It wasn't about exposing the truth. It was about distracting everyone. Jaguar says that's why the documentary relied so heavily on old footage, recycled narratives, and incidents the industry had quietly acknowledged for years. It wasn't meant to reveal hidden truths. It was meant to control the conversation.
The story isn't over. I agree. Like, that's the thing. The story's not even being told. Because in order to tell the actual whole story, you would have to include everyone that is involved. But no, this is about saving the industry and blaming it all on Diddy. Saving the industry and blaming it all on Diddy. Okay, Diddy's going to jail. He's going to do his time. I don't know if I don't know what that appeal is looking like right now. Because see, the one thing that all of this documentary shit is doing is definitely fucking up his possibility for an appeal to get out early. Especially with the judge and them and the appeal board having to look at the footage of him sitting there with Mark Agnifilo, pretty much working on how to fix the trial.
And for him to be watching the feds watching him.
Yeah, film me, the feds. Watch.
Film me.
Diddy was the perfect person to pin it all on. Keep in mind, CNN had footage of Diddy assaulting Cassie for well over a decade before. They actually released it, so why did the FBI only start looking into it now, after the statute of limitations had already passed? The documentary didn't cover any of this, and it never addressed the most important question of all. If Diddy was being investigated for RICO, where were his co-conspirators?
They did what they needed to do in this documentary. The whole objective of this documentary was to blame it all on Diddy. The devil made me do it. Blame it all on Diddy. And the rest of the industry is nothing like this. Like when Curtis Jackson sat there in his interview with Robin and sat there and said, I did this because I don't want people thinking that the hip hop community is okay with this kind of behavior. I don't want them thinking that, we're just going to be silent while all of this is going on. Like, we're okay with this kind of behavior. And my thing is huh? So now you speaking for all of hip hop, and all of hip hop is uncomfortable with this. Meanwhile, you got people like Ja Rule who, on the low key, allegedly, Gene Deal has exposed for having his own nude tryst freak-offs with Diddy.
In that courtroom. Do you think that hip-hop culture was on trial as much as Sean Combs was?
Look, if I didn't say anything, you would interpret it as the hip-hop is fine with his behaviors. there's no one else being vocal. So you would look at it and just say, because that mind your business, or let me not say nothing about nothing, or those things, it would allow the entire culture to register as if they're for that behavior.
If Sean Combs watches this, what do you think he's gonna feel?
Like, wow, this is amazing. I think he's gonna say this is the best documentary I've seen in a long time. Because you'll see people saying that. I mean, he may feel a different way about pieces and bits of it, but he knows the truth. I think he'll see the truth in it.
The biggest selling point of this documentary was the unreleased footage, which 50 Cent somehow managed to get his hands on. But here's the thing. When the documentary was first announced, 50 didn't even have access to that footage. He couldn't have. How did 50 know what was going to happen to Diddy before it actually happened?
He announced he was going to be doing the documentary December 2023 with Netflix. And the star footage that you use to get people to re-upload or resubscribe to Netflix to make this the #1 in their TV shows division for almost 2 weeks straight. Beating out Stranger Things. How much stranger is that?
I'm not Becky.
This footage didn't even exist when you said you were going to be doing this documentary. So we've got a videographer, a rogue videographer that has this very, very, very explosive, very explosive footage of him literally sitting on camera, planning how to go after survivors, how to poison the jury pool, how to fix his trial in advance before he's even arrested. I mean, like, is anybody not forgetting when Mark Agnifilo was sitting there talking to the sons in the hallway, and they're sitting there filming, and he's sitting up there, yeah, well, see, what we gotta do is we gotta go and we gotta put countersuits on all of these people. We have to create lawsuits ourselves. He's sitting there talking about creating lawsuits to affect public perception. He's talking about that.
Gene Deal actually refused to be part of this documentary after he realized that 50 wasn't allowed to make any decisions. He's the one who had all the actual proof, according to Gene himself. He sat down and spoke with 50 Cent for 45 minutes. What he realized was that 50 wasn't in control of what footage made the final cut, who was paid, or which stories could legally be included. Those decisions were being made at the Netflix and production level. Once Gene understood that, he walked away. They were going to spare no cost in doing this because they wanted to tell the story.
That they was going to spare no cost in doing this because he wanted to tell the story, and he wanted to tell the story like it was supposed to be told and everything like that. I said, yeah, okay. So then the director, I gotta get her name, man, because it don't even sound. I want to put her on blast because she was telling me, she was saying to me that what I was asking for was crazy, and they wasn't spending money like that. I'm talking about, you got footage, you got clothing, you got. I was doing footage. I had pictures, all the stuff that I had. You could figure out a way to pay a brother and stuff like that. And then I was telling her about some prices that I've already received, and I had the invoices to show it. And then she was calling me like I was lying. I'm like, yo, who do you think you talking to? You know what I'm saying? And she was talking about, there's no way nobody paid. Nobody what? I say, first of all you people come with these documentaries and stuff, the first thing you tell me, y'all tell these people out here that y'all don't pay, and y'all pay. You give, if you can make a picture look like $10,000, $15,000, you know what I'm saying? You can sit here and tell me that you're gonna pay me for my time sitting right down here with y'all. You understand? So then, one thing led to another, and I was like, yo, all right, well then, F you, I spoke to 50, and then she said 50, and this is exact words that came out her mouth. 50 does not determine what goes in and goes out of this documentary. And he definitely don't pay, he determine what somebody get paid. It's not his documentary like that. I was like, oh, so if it's not his documentary and I spoke to him like that, I don't need to be doing nothing with you because I'm doing this on the strength of him. But you gonna pay me if the 50 didn't have the power to do anything, but they using his name to like push the whole documentary. And that's what it was about. So that's why you don't see a cameo other than the pictures they used of me on the film in the documentary. I got like 3 or 4 pictures in the documentary that I've seen of myself. You know, some people say they saw more, but I know three different times where I was certain places and you could actually see me in the documentary, and that's the only thing you're gonna get. But the stories that they told in the documentary, bruh, come on. They could have went a whole lot deeper. They could have did a whole lot more.
Gene agreed with everything that Jaguar said. He also said he had physical proof, not just stories. According to Gene, this included video footage, photographs, documents, and physical evidence he had collected over the years. He told this to the production team, but when he attempted to negotiate compensation for his time, materials, and evidence, he claims the production team dismissed his requests. They weren't interested in proof. They just wanted someone to sit and waste the audience's time.
The behind the scenes footage, they got a Diddy leading up to him getting arrested, and how you feel about all that, man?
Well, what I feel about the documentary, they left a whole lot of key things out. If they was gonna do something and they're gonna say in the reckoning of Sean Combs, The Reckoning, or Diddy, The Reckoning and stuff like that, it should have been a lot of people that we lost because of him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't only Big, it wasn't only Tupac, you understand? For the atmosphere that he put those kids in, you got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy, from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't able to tell that story because they didn't have no intel on that story or what went down, or they didn't do their investigations right, which he also led up to the reason why Wolf ain't here today. You understand? They didn't tell that story. They didn't tell a story about Jessica Rosenbaum, who was at the City College situation. You understand?
At the same time, some of the footage that was in the documentary could have actually been used in the trial. For example, not even Diddy's lawyers knew that Diddy had been recording their conversations. If the jurors had been shown video footage that Diddy was planning to poison the jury pool, it could have helped the FBI. What's even crazier is how it's obvious that Netflix is lying about how the footage was actually obtained.
Can you imagine if they had had any testimony from Little Rod and the footage that he had from that incident, that firearm incident where the guy
Gene agreed with everything Jaguar said. He also stated he had physical proof, not just stories. According to Gene, this included video footage, photographs, documents, and physical evidence he had collected over the years. He shared this with the production team, but when he tried to negotiate compensation for his time, materials, and evidence, he claims the production team dismissed his requests. They weren't interested in proof. They just wanted someone to sit and waste the audience's
Behind the scenes footage, they got a Diddy leading up to him getting arrested, and how you feel about all that, man?
Well, what I feel about the documentary, they left a whole lot of key things out. If they was gonna do something and they're gonna say in the reckoning of Sean Combs, The Reckoning, or Diddy, The Reckoning and stuff like that, it should have been a lot of people that we lost because of him. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't only Big, it wasn't only Tupac, you understand? For the atmosphere that he put those kids in, you got a guy named Anthony Wolf Jones, who was from Bad Boy, from its conception as doing security and being one of the financiers of Puff having to have some money to keep Big and Craig Mack around before he got to Clyde Davis. You know what I'm saying? They wasn't able to tell that story because they didn't have no intel on that story or what went down, or they didn't do their investigations right, which he also led up to the reason why Wolf ain't here today. You understand? They didn't tell that story. They didn't tell a story about Jessica Rosenbaum, who was at the City College situation. You understand?
at the same time. Some of the footage in the documentary could have actually been used in the trial, for example. Not even Diddy's lawyers knew that Diddy had been recording their conversations. If the jurors had been shown video footage of Diddy planning to poison the jury pool, it could have helped the FBI. What's even crazier is how obvious it is that Netflix is lying about how the footage was actually obtained.
Can you imagine if they had had any testimony from Little Rod and the footage that he had from that incident, that firearm incident where the guy G was damn near mortally wounded and was losing his life, and the footage that he had from that? Can you imagine if that had been shown to the jury?
I don't know, man.
Like, why not? If it was available for them to get it from Little Rod to put it in a documentary, and Little Rod hasn't gone to trial yet, then why in God's name hasn't any, why did any of this make it to the feds?
That's a great question. Why didn't they even subpoena or
50
talk to?
Curtis Jackson announced in December of 2023, after Cassie's lawsuit came out, that he was going to be doing his own documentary. Isn't it very clever that all of this, alarming and stuff didn't come out of his documentary until almost 6 months after his verdict came in? 2 months after he had been sentenced? It was almost as if they were holding the documentary to not get in the way of his trial. Like, that's the thing that's tripping me out when it's coming to all of this Curtis Jackson praise that's coming on. And there's a lot of people. If he didn't get paid, usually it's like 90 days before you start, you got to put in an invoice and all of that stuff. Like, his business machine was still businessing. You telling me nobody around him. That sounds like a setup to me.
Sounds like a setup.
It sounds like a setup to me. And when you think about the fact that, another conversation that we've been having, a lot of people aren't paying attention to the money behind the machine. BlackRock, Vanguard, owners of Diageo, the company that Diddy tried to go after and had to settle out of court for, with sealed findings, and nobody really knows how that turned out before his life got turned upside down and HSI came in raiding, grabbing all kinds of evidence and all kinds of stuff. They're part owners in Netflix. Did you know that?
That's information.
The very company that has allegedly been going out of their way to work with the higher ups to make Diddy's life a living hell have a stake in the platform that's now ruining what's left of his reputation worldwide. But after this trial,
The one thing this documentary did accomplish was destroy any chances of Diddy getting out on appeal exclusive. Never before seen footage of Diddy scheming with his lawyers and allegedly even planning crimes was released, and Diddy's lawyers are angry Diddy secretly recorded phone calls between himself and his lawyers, and they are not happy about being exposed like that.
Boy, Diddy really screwed over Mark Agnifilo. I gotta say, this is awful that Diddy owes his life to Mark Agnifilo, literally his life, because he could have gotten life in prison were it not for Mark Agnifilo, his defense lawyer, who had a brilliant strategy. And Diddy screwed him over when he hired this videographer to chronicle his life without telling Mark Agnifilo that when Diddy and Mark were on the phone, this videographer was recording what Mark clearly expected to be an attorney-client privileged relationship. Now, it is true that the client holds that privilege, the lawyer doesn't, but Mark's clear expectation was that this was a private conversation. These were private conversations, and that he and Diddy could talk openly. And Mark could talk to Diddy not just as a client, but as a person, and tried to guide him in a time leading up to his arrest. And Unbeknownst to Mark Agnifilo, Diddy has got this guy recording the conversation as he's sitting there saying, "You are screwing this up. You are messing up this case. We're losing." And knowing that that's on tape. And it's almost like he's performing for the camera and not telling Mark what's going on.
By showing that his lawyers were knowingly involved in covering up information, did he make them liable to be suspended? If you're a lawyer and the footage shows you knew about all this and didn't do the right thing, you could be facing suspensions and investigations, and Diddy just handed all of that straight to Netflix.
Right now, why? The truth is, they should all be under review by the bar associations that they're registered to. All of their licenses should be up for termination. With the shit that we saw in that documentary, with the way Mark Agnifilo was sitting there talking about filing lawsuits, filing fake lawsuits, creating all kinds of hoopla. That shit was on film. Lawyers ain't supposed to be talking that shit.
Yeah, those are strategies that you're not supposed to actually see.
Strategies?
Hey.
That shit is against the law. It's against the fucking law. That's why that black lawyer that left said, I cannot sit here and represent this. I can't represent this dude with the kind of shit that they doing. He wasn't interested in putting his motherfucking license online. But you get a weirdo, one the so-called survivor like Nicole Westmoreland, who's willing to get on the stand and cry for Diddy after she's been ran through by what, Cash Money Records?
All of this is happening at the same time that Diddy is working on his appeal. I can only imagine how much his lawyers hate him right now.
There's a new appeal from hip-hop mogul Sean Diddy Combs. His defense team is seeking his immediate release from federal prison, calling his 50-month sentence on charges of transportation for prostitution excessive. CB Cotton has the details live from our New York newsroom. Good to see you, CB.
Hey, Lydia. Well, once one of the most powerful names in hip-hop, Sean Diddy Combs is now behind bars at that federal facility in Fort Dix, New Jersey, but his legal team says he should have never been sent there for this long. So on Tuesday, in an 84-page filing, Combs' attorneys asked a New York federal appeals court to immediately release Combs and send the case back for a new sentencing or grant him an acquittal. In July, a jury found Combs guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution and acquitted him of the most serious charges, racketeering conspiracy and sex trafficking. In the fall, the judge then sentenced Combs to a little more than 4 years behind bars, citing testimony from former girlfriends who said they felt pressured to participate in drug-fueled sex parties with male escorts called hotel nights or freak-offs. But the rapper's lawyers argue this sentence was punishment for crimes that the jury rejected. They wrote in the filing, quote, "He sits in prison today serving a 50-month sentence because the district judge acted as a 13th juror. The judge defied the jury's verdict and found Combs, quote, coerced, exploited, and forced his girlfriends to have sex and led a criminal conspiracy," end quote.
And it's not just his appeal that's the issue. His lawyers are now personally involved in this case. This documentary just sealed Diddy's fate. And even his lawyers could face serious consequences. That's why they're fighting so hard to get the documentary taken down. Diddy's lawyers have already filed a cease and desist and are now threatening to sue both 50 Cent and Netflix for over $1 billion.
Overnight, lawyers for Sean Diddy Combs trying to stop the release of a Netflix docuseries due out today.
We have to find somebody that'll work with us that has dealt in the dirtiest of dirty business.
The series contains never-before-seen footage of Combs debating strategy with his lawyers in the days leading up to his arrest in New York last year.
I am going to let you professionals look at the situation and come back to me with a solution.
It also includes video of Combs greeting fans in Harlem.
Off my back, Lord, you win. I'm gonna win. Lord, you win. Be with it. I'll accept it.
And then saying this about the interaction moments later.
I need some hand sanitizer. Hold on. I got it. I've been out in the streets amongst the people. Yeah, I gotta take a bath. Like the amount of people that actually I'm coming in contact with, like that's what I have to do. You know what I'm saying? It's like 150 hugs.
Combs' lawyers are demanding that Netflix pull the series, threatening legal action and claiming Netflix is using stolen footage that was never authorized for release, calling it a shameful hit piece. The series is executive produced by Combs' longtime rival, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, and director Alex Stapleton, who said, quote, "We obtained the footage legally and have the necessary rights," end quote, before the cease and desist was sent yesterday. Stapleton and Jackson sat down with our Robin Roberts to discuss the series.
How do you respond to people who say that it's more about the disdain that you have for Sean Combs than it is for giving the victims a platform?
It's not personal.
Jaguar even specified exactly what Netflix removed from the documentary.
I'm out, like, I'm like, okay, more footage is coming out, great. Who y'all gonna cut out? Who y'all gonna edit out this time? Like, cause that's what I'm gonna be looking for. I'm gonna be looking for all of the shit that they cut out. If the complete and utter truth comes out, 3 things happen. The entertainment industry collapses completely. Millions, possibly billions of advertising dollars don't get made. People go broke. Companies go under. That's why they fucking hate me. Not because I'm telling the truth on people, because I'm telling the truth about the system. And I'm showing people the reality that the only thing that matters is that dollar. These entities, these companies, they don't care about none of these people. They don't care about none of these victims. They don't care about the perpetrators. They don't care about the prey. Shit, half the time, they're encouraging the predator. They don't care. It's all about the money. See?
Gene Deal said the same thing months ago. Diddy was. Blackmailing other celebrities for leverage the names of these elites were what Gene Deal and Jaguar Wright were expected to expose. The people who were involved, benefited, or were being protected.
It's all about the money. They saw what he did to Cassie. With the kicking, the punching. They saw what they did to Cassie. They know that nobody in America liked that. So now, these people are represented by a brand. Whether it's something about the music, clothing, movies. They're not gonna come out and speak on nothing that has anything to do with them. And they praying that they not on the tape doing crazy stuff, being oiled up in the whole 9 yards. They praying. So until the feds say, hey, yo, listen here. We got you on, hey, buddy, we got you on this tape. And girl looked like she was pretty young. We're not gonna show it, but we need you to come and testify against Brother Love, P. Diddy, Puff Daddy, you know, Sean Combs. That's when they're gonna start talking. And they're not gonna be talking in his favor. When the feds come to them and show them what they got on tape.
King Gene has been naming these elites for years. He's been repeating the same names, telling the same stories, and warning people long before any cameras were rolling. That's why people take him seriously. His story hasn't changed. 50 Cent, on the other hand, did change his stance.
And that's not my doing. That's not Cassie doing. That's his doing and his learned behavior from the people that mentored him. You gotta realize, man, he learned from Andre Harrell. He learned from Russell Simmons. He learned from Clyde Davis. You understand? When those people are telling you that they were heavy into the drugs, they was heavy into beating women and doing things at that age, at that crazy stage, that's gonna make him think that he could get away with the same thing that they was getting away with back then. You understand? The things that he was saying, you know, the touchy-feely between two men and all that stuff like that, man. All that, he learned that from them dudes. When I told y'all the story, when me and my man went up to Russell Simmons and he had a house and he had a a man in bikini drawers in his bedroom, in his bed. You understand? Bruh, this is that he learned. I'm assuming he learned it from them. Let me put that. And I'm not gonna say alleged because I saw that for my own self. My man was with me, Slick was with me, and we saw that for our own self.
The craziest part of the story is that Diddy is actually planning to release a documentary of his own. Justin and Christian Combs are both going to appear in it. And this is the first time since the start of the trial that either of them has taken a public stance on their father's crimes. The documentary is expected to be released in March 2026.